Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Table for Two, the podcast powered by Scale Partner AI. I'm your host, Sarah, and this is where we pull up a chair with leaders, innovators, and everyday business builders navigating the intersection of systems, creativity, and emerging technology. Today, I'm joined by someone who's worn a lot of hats: engineer, jewelry entrepreneur, DJ, marketing strategist, and through it all, he stayed obsessed with one thing: growth through
Yep.
structure. Tony Cordeiro is the founder of Growth Media, based out of Connecticut, where he helps business grow through smart automation, better communication, and AI-backed content systems.
Yep.
We'll get
Absolutely.
into how he builds teams using virtual assistants, how automation saved his client sales cycles, and the big bottlenecks still standing in the way, especially when it comes to web builds and training. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Definitely. You started in a technical engineering role and somehow found your way into sales, marketing, and ultimately launching multiple businesses. That's a unique path. Can you take us back to what sparked that shift?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think in life, right, we think we're going to be doing one thing and we find out through life, you change careers, right? And that was me. I went to engineering school way back when,
Mm,
did a lot of traveling, flew all over the country installing these robotic systems at hospitals.
mm,
Had a ton of fun, but just like anything else, traveling got old, right? And kind of went from there into more of a technical teaching role,
mm,
So, and then after that, that company got bought out, and I said, let me give sales a shot. All right. And, kind of found out that, I did a decent job doing sales. It was a lot of fun meeting new people, and things like that. So that's when I started to do the sales and then went into the jewelry store to do sales. And then because of my technical background, it was just very natural for me to, go into operations, start running,
mm.
doing more manufacturing, stuff. And then when the time came where the jewelry store said, "Hey, I need someone to run our marketing department," I'm like, "Sure." Why not? Right. So with no marketing background or anything like that. But what I did know is systems and people, from a sales side.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I ended up from being an engineer, fast forward into the marketing world. And obviously I grew a passion for it. And I did DJ on the side, like you had said, as well. And just like any business, right, you have to grow it, right, and you have to scale it. And this is where some of the systems in the AI really started coming into play. The more
Mm.
and more I looked into it, because it applies to all walks of life. It applies to all walks of businesses, and it's when using some of those concepts and those systems really allowed us to take off in a lot of different areas in all of the companies that we kind of worked for.
It's definitely an unconventional journey from engineering to jewelry to
Yep.
DJ and now growth marketing.
Yep.
How has your technical roots shaped your obsession with structure and efficiency?
Yeah, listen, here, I think as an example, as from a need standpoint of view, I think that's where everything starts, right? Whether
Hmm.
we had a need, right? And I'll kind of take the DJ side of things, because I had other jobs and other things I was doing, time became of an essence, right? So, and I found myself, getting up at, wee hours in the morning, 3:30 in the
Mm,
morning to try to do the things I needed for those others, other at the time side businesses that I was trying to create. And I'm like, I just can't keep doing this, right? So
mm,
I started to find automation. There's got to be different ways of being able to modify and automate these systems. And that's what led me into, I think I started off doing like Keep, and I discovered high level. And, I kept just kind of building that journey to try to find, what piece worked best, so I started again, just like anything, because I think everything starts from a need for your
yeah,
own world.
yeah.
And then you sit there and you hear so many other stories of people that are struggling in the same manner. And,
Hmm.
where growth media came in is how do I help other people with their journey in life too, and help them, kind of show them there's a better way and a simpler way. And obviously
Yeah.
automation and some of that stuff is where it's all at.
Yeah, definitely. What's striking is how systems seem to be the through line, whether it's music or product or marketing. You're thinking in terms of flows and automation. Has has that always come naturally for you?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because I think I have just a general curiosity of why
Yeah.
things work. right? And I'm always asking why. And so much of this is like, how do we do things better, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think we look at all situations, and again, especially when you're trying to scale a business, right, or do more of something, there's only you, right? You only have so many hours in a day. And how do you get yourself and your team to, to kind of work all together. And again,
Yeah.
whether it's systems are the key to any business. If you just kind of just randomly do things all day long, things get done. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But they may not be as efficient, right. Or as
Mm.
quick. And I think systems is where you can use your skills and your talents for other things. Right. And then just put these systems in place so your team can operate and function at their the best peak, optimal
Mm-hmm.
performance.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now let's talk about growth media. You've
Yep.
built this system where a lead comes in, automations go out, and follow ups are structured.
Yep.
What's been the most transformative piece of automation for your clients?
Follow up. So
Mm.
what I mean by that is you get someone fills out a contact form, right? And in the past, what used to happen was you get an email or you get something, and it's could be in the wee hours of the night, and it was acceptable to reply within 24 hours. That was back in the
Mm.
day, the standard of email. But what you find out is that the every minute that goes by, the chances of you booking or depending on what
Mm-hmm.
industry you're at, getting that decreases by 50% to next to nothing, because it's all
Mm-hmm.
it's all speed to lead. And when you're busy doing other things, having that automation just to say, hey, somebody will get back to you immediately, and having some kind of basic follow sequence made a huge difference, not only from the DJ side of the business, but the jewelry store business as well. And obviously
Mm.
growth media is the key factor as far as developing those systems and kind of applying that to the individual companies that we work with.
That's exactly the kind of setup we help with at Scale Partner AI, tying all of those back end pieces together so the founder doesn't have to live in their inbox. When
Yep.
done right, it really gives small teams their time back.
Absolutely.
You've built hands on with AI, using it for everything from Facebook and Google Ads to website development and content.
Yep.
What's your current workflow look like with AI tools?
So currently, again, just like again, a lot of our content obviously starts on a phone or
Yeah.
something like that, right? And what we do is we'll use things like the script that has a lot of AI built in, right? That will
Mm.
transcribe the video, create the clips for you, right?
Yeah.
And it will write the blog posts for you and the article posts, and things like that. And it's always this challenge as far as like, how do I create content, right? The nice thing about
Mm-hmm.
these systems is that it actually just takes what you just said, right? It
Mm-hmm.
translates it in a manner, so it is your words, right? Which is better than just saying, hey, AI, write me a topic of something, ChatGPT, right? Obviously, or building a website. You do want it to be your knowledge and your expertise, right? You know what I mean? So, and for those of you that know anything about SEO, that that's a big no-no in that world. And
Mm-hmm.
there's bots that can catch all that. So it's important for that stuff. But that's what like. That's the majority of like my workflow is I'll create a video like we're doing right now with a client. We'll grab, clips from it. We'll create a blog post for it. We'll build web pages based on that, and things like that. And that's kind of how we do it from a workflow standpoint of view.
Mm-hmm. There's something really powerful in the way you're thinking. How can I build and repurpose many times? It's something we encourage a lot, especially with content. And you're right, the last mile, actually getting it all scheduled and posted can still be a little time suck when you mentioned creating
Absolutely.
blog posts and LinkedIn posts for sure. So on the flip side, you mentioned web development is still a
Yep.
pain point when we talked on the phone. What's going on there?
Yeah. So look, the web development thing is just a time issue, right?
Mm.
So this is kind of where maybe your virtual assistants come in and things like that. So, you can gather all the content, all the information, right? Any images and things like that, but it still takes time to kind of build like the site, right? So, in our workflow of things, we have virtual assistants that actually will do that type of work for us, right? Or,
Mm.
the posting of the stuff too, because again, it's time consuming,
Yeah.
but it's very, excuse me, it's very teachable, right?
Yeah.
You can show somebody that process as far as, how to post and how to schedule these things. So, that's kind of what we've been doing with that area there, right?
No, that's real. And even with AI,
Excuse
some
me.
work still requires skilled hands or a system that
Absolutely.
lets you offload confidently. At Skill Partner AI, that's something we're exploring how to train AI to do first pass layouts and help teams like yours move faster while keeping quality up.
That's awesome because I think that's again for the busy business owner, that potentially again if you again it's one of those things where as a business owner, right, there's certain costs, kind of associated with it. And a lot of times what we're talking to is, smaller businesses, right?
Yeah.
Because some of the bigger companies at scale have their own marketing teams and a full staff, right? But the smaller business to midsize, it may be just the owner or maybe one
Mm.
person, trying to do all these things. And, they're trying to be as effective as possible. But having, AI and systems like you're talking about, it just makes it that much more efficient that they're able to put good content and help, their potential clients, right? Number one, find them, right?
Yeah.
But also learn as far as how they can help them, get what
Mm.
they need, out of it. So yeah, this AI stuff is really exciting. For me, it is obviously.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it is
Yeah.
for other business owners because there's so much potential, right?
Definitely. So, one thing I like to ask my guests on this show is if you could wave a magic AI wand, you said you would want more time when we talked
Yep.
about this earlier on our call.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would that look like day to day?
So what I mentioned to you was, if there was this really cool world where you could just maybe record a video like this and you just hit a button and then magically it just kind of got posted to, created the web page for you. It created all the blog posts and all the social media posts and things like that, right? Potentially, it put everything on Facebook and decided
Hmm.
which ones were worthy of ad, right? So, I mean, that's in the perfect world, right? I think every day that goes by, we're getting much closer, to that, and it's come a
Yeah.
long way.
Mm.
But there's a lot more potential that I see coming in the future with a lot of these things. So, super exciting if you're in a business world and you're doing some of the stuff that we're doing.
Definitely. You're describing the dream setup for a lot of entrepreneurs,
Yep.
not just repurposing content, but auto publishing it across platforms, optimized for each one without needing to think about it. That's the next frontier where
Yep.
AI becomes your content manager, not just your assistant. So
Absolutely.
I know your team includes VAs and you're
Yep.
pretty hands on with training. How are you seeing AI support your team or help speed up onboarding?
From SOPs, standard operating procedures,
Mm.
right? Because it can, again, if you and I were doing training session, right, you would take this transcript as an example, and you can create specific, step by step instructions. If it wasn't done in the format like that, right, you can just talk into your phone, right, kind of go through that process or do a screen record as well, and it just transcribes everything and creates this really cool, really easy to read, step by step thing, and I can knock off 10 SOPs in an hour, right? Because in my head, I know this stuff. I've done it a million times. I just not like I don't type that fast, right? You know what I mean? I'm not a typer, right?
Yeah.
So this is where that stuff for me has helped tremendously because if someone needs something, I can create a quick instructions,
Mm.
and in no time we could kind of walk through it once or twice, and the person knows how to perform the task.
Right. And especially keeping the tone of your company consistent and
Yep.
aligning with your mission and your values. That's great. How do you balance what to automate versus what to keep human, keeping the human touch?
No, listen, that's a great question, right? So like automating thing. So human touch would be anything that is philosophy, right?
Mm.
Your view of the world, right?
Yeah.
Because, I think from a there's too many people trying to use AI as the written word and having some kind of some kind of like fake person talking, right? And what makes you who you are and who I am is like seeing us and how excited we are about the potential of helping business owners. You
Hmm.
can't get that, right? You know what I mean? So and if we're excited, the business are like, these guys are excited to help me. Like, I would love for them to be a part of that. So that's the part that, you can't, there's no way you can automate. Right.
Hmm.
But you can automate as far as like, the follow up sequence. Right. You can automate how things are posted. Right. Those are the things that are like mundane tasks that
Yeah.
take time. And if you eliminate some of that stuff, it gives us time to do some of the like this. Right. It gives us time to have a conversation like this, and hopefully help other people, with their businesses, maybe have a different perspective or through your
Mm.
company or maybe our, my company. we can help them out with some of the things that they don't have the time for, or they're just not good at, because we're all good at different things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to do more of those things, not the things that kind of make us miserable, and we can definitely hand off or automate that process.
Yeah, no, definitely. So much of that aligns with what we're seeing. AI acting as a force multiplier, not replacing the human
Hmm.
side, but making it easier to onboard,
Yep.
document, and train without starting from scratch every time.
Yep. Yep. It's I know that when I worked for the robotics company, when I was traveling engineer, so many I remember going into these facilities or hospitals, and again, people were freaked out about this thing's replacing my job.
Mm.
Right. And again, and I draw parallels to what that was 25, 30 years ago when I worked for that company to like now. And, their fear was like, no, the goal wasn't that. The goal was to aid what you were already doing. And
Mm.
that's what kind of
Mm-hmm.
what AI and automations are doing now. We're not replacing anyone with it. Right. You know what I mean? We're just helping you or giving you better tools. I would say, we're giving you better tools so
Yeah.
you could be more efficient in your job. And if you're more efficient, it gives you the opportunity to be better. And hopefully, if you're working for a company, right, kind of gets you up the run, right? You know what I mean? And hopefully, the owner recognizes that, right? So for me, it's just an opportunity. It's a different tool, just like when your computer came out, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or word processors, or
Yeah.
just think about all the things that came out through the future,
Mm-hmm.
that at first were kind of freaky, but now we can't live without, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, internet's slow. It's like, what do you mean? Like if you were on AOL back in the day when the first internet dial-up, that was
Yeah.
slow. But we've adapted to this world nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of relate it to the same thing, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now you have ChatGPT on your phone that, you can get pretty much any answer, you know what I mean, that you need, which is
No,
super cool.
definitely. Yeah, we've evolved so much, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that's been a common theme from what I've been hearing about founders and subject matter experts like yourself is, there's half of the country that is has adapt to AI and become familiar with the tools and integrating it into their business and their personal lives. And there's also half of the people in the country that are kind of a little bit hesitant. And so they're worried that these robots, so to speak, would then take over their job. But it's
Yeah.
there to help amplify your voice, to help enhance it, right? It's potentially starting with one automation and building from there,
Yeah.
baby steps, right? It's not getting overwhelmed, but focus on the biggest friction points and let AI handle the repetitive tasks so you can focus on growth. Even as starting with their grocery lists and talking to Siri, that too is an AI tool. And so it's creating that mindset shift. Done for you doesn't always mean done by you. And so I think
You're absolutely, no, absolutely right.
so let's shift gears a little bit. If someone listening is where you were 6 to 7 years ago,
Yep.
figuring out how to build smarter systems, delegate more, and actually grow, what advice would you give?
Start slow,
Mm,
because again, this stuff can get overwhelming,
yeah.
and I think for most, like, I have a technical background, so like a lot of things do come a little easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
But even at my best, right, it still can be overwhelming because there's so much, right? So,
Yeah.
I think, and you said it perfectly. Take the one thing, like your biggest pain point, and focus on that, right?
Mm,
And once you get that up and running and you're confident and it's working the way you think it is, right? Then you can kind of add the next thing, right? So,
mm,
and because I see like a lot of people are, they're afraid of it. They don't understand it. Right. So they procrastinate, and they know they
mm-hmm.
should be doing something. But, I know a lot of business owners want to, they're micromanagers. They want to do everything themselves, and things like that. And then they end up not doing anything. Right. So I always say, start simple, like start with one
Yeah.
thing, get it working.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because
Mm-hmm.
that one thing might change your business, right? Bring in more
Change your life.
income. It's right, right, and then give you the ability to do, maybe hire a company, right, to do some of these other things that you need, as far as much more full scale. They give you more of that opportunity,
Yeah.
to spend time with your family, and maybe do some of the things that you really enjoy doing. But everyone's a little hesitant to take that first step, right? You know what I mean? So yeah.
No, definitely. It's the mental shift from doer to delegator with
Hmm.
systems. So tell me, how do you balance growth media, your DJ company, and past ventures? I have to ask.
Honestly, I just, to me, it's not a job. I just
Mm,
I just truly love learning, right? Doing these things, helping people, right? So, for me, it's just part of life. right? You know what I mean? I get up in the
Mm.
morning, I'm excited to do all these things. I use a lot of like planners like Asana and ClickUp, right? Because that's, again, some of these things, again, I think in the past, before some of these organizational tools, again, when you're doing so many things, you can get overwhelmed, right? And you do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I honestly I can go to bed, right? And not have to worry about a thing because everything is in my, Asana or ClickUp, whatever tool I'm using at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wake up in the morning and I know exactly what I got to work on, right? I know
Mm.
exactly what my team's got to work on, right? So, that's why it's fun. I enjoy myself every day, right? So it's not work, to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I do it. There's no magic, and I also find time for my family as well, because obviously that's important. You just can't work your whole life and not enjoy the people that you love, around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding that balance. So it's hard for most people, right? Because it gets so deep, deep into things. But
Yeah.
you gotta find that balance. It's important.
No, for sure. It's protecting the time and the energy. Why automate and delegate isn't just a buzzword. And I like how it's kind of what's coming into my mind as you were describing Asana and going to sleep and then waking up and then knowing what you have to do. It's the set it and forget it content
Mhm.
engine. What's working and what's the manual, but it's having understanding its limitations, but also amplifying the human aspect to it. And I think that's just really interesting. And what I want people to gain and our viewers to listen and when they walk away with this is being able to look at their manual tasks and the day-to-day things that you can automate, but starting small and not being afraid of it, not being hesitant, because there are people like us that can help them through it and help explore
Yeah,
the world of AI.
yeah, and again, like you said, like the automation has been the key, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that stuff because I know it works, right? If I see my numbers dip a little bit, right,
Mm,
I can kind of work and say, okay, how do I improve maybe some of the messages that go out, and things like that.
mm,
But I don't. Again, I only think about that if business is steady. You know what I mean, with my clients, then I'm like, all right, it's working. But I
mm,
don't think about that because the emails go out. Like, if I tag something as this is a new client and all this automation kind of goes out for the emails for the next year and a
mm,
half, right? You know what I mean? I did it once. I thought about it once, and I never have to think about it again. And as such, again, a peace of mind,
yeah.
especially when like the DJ world is an example of that, where not everyone's ready to get married, right? So they're interested in something today, right? But maybe they're getting married in 2 years, and maybe I meet you today, and we have a conversation, but you're not ready to book, right? You know what I
Mm,
mean? And again, that happens the same thing in most businesses, right? Some people are ready to go, but
yeah.
then other people need more time, right? So, but you need to stay, top of mind, right?
Yeah.
And that's what those emails do. And it just goes. I did it one
Hmm.
time. I did it 5 years ago. I have this email sequence. I've made a couple tweaks, never had to think about it again, So
Yeah.
that's the other part with the automation thing that, when I can go to bed at night, because I already thought about it once,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I don't have to think about it again, right? So
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, it's just rent free in your head.
yeah, it's great. It's like great, you know what I mean? Unless there's a problem, and then you go, okay, now let me think about it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, it's knowing where to start, right? The quick wins versus the deep infrastructure, and that's exactly what you described. There is the email sequences and the automations to help scale your business to where it is today. So
yeah.
thank you for describing that.
Yeah,
Ton-
texting obviously is another big part of it too, right? You know what I
yes.
mean? That's shifted as you know, right? It's email used to be a big thing, but now everyone texts.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, again, going back to some of the next generation of people coming up, right?
Hmm.
Changing some of your systems to handle more of the texting stuff had a
Mm.
big impact on my business. But again, all automated, right? It was just like, okay, instead of me sending out the email, I still send out emails. I just supplement it with a text, right? And
Mm.
that increased, people from like, if people ghost you or, it seems like people are disappearing or whatever. It's because with email, so much of it goes to junk, right? You got your text messages and stuff like that
Spam.
to kind of protect. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spam. So yeah, that's the other part of that world that also helps a tremendous, amount, with communicating with your potential clients.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, what is your take on ethical use of AI in the marketing and client service?
Ethical use. I think, make sure it's your content.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? I think that's where AI, you get into trouble,
Mm.
because it's so easy just to put a topic, there,
Hmm.
and then just take what it says,
Yeah.
right? Instead of like, it's use it as a research, right? Use
Hmm.
it to research
Use
your
it as a
topic.
tool. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And inform your own opinion, around it, So, and I think that's where, people get into trouble is that they don't want to, they don't want to write the stuff that they still got, you still got to do the work, right? You know what I mean? Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're searching on the internet or typing in Google, it's much quicker to get something off of Chat GPT, but
Yeah.
research it and then just repeat it. Like, here's what I think about this situation, right? There's no right or wrong. It's an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's where I stand on that.
No, and you're correct. There are other founders just like yourself. It's being able to know when to ethically use it. Not all the information that you find on ChatGPT or even online is correct. So doing the
Right.
homework, doing the research before you publish it and stamp your name on it, right? You always want to make
Yep.
sure that what you're doing is morally correct because your name's behind it.
Absolutely. No,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And there's ways to check out, if that's the case too, right? So, I mean, I think the early adapters for colleges, right, writing term
Yeah.
papers and things like that,
Yeah.
there's systems to catch those people too. They're like, oh no, you didn't write this. This was ChatGPT. Cool when you try it, right? You know what I mean? But it's what that is, right? So.
Yeah, no, that might have to be a different discussion that we have when I have you back on the podcast is the type of AI tools out there that finds an ethical use and plagiarism of
Yeah.
college students these days. So we'll say that for another episode.
No worries.
Tony, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your systems brain, and your commitment to helping other business owners build better. Where can people find you if they want to learn more?
They can go to gogrowthmedia.com. That's my growth media website. They can find me on social media at me.tony.cordero as far as Instagram, and just Tony Cordero on Facebook. Usually where I live. I also do have a Twitter, but I kind of just post things here and there. So
Mm-hmm.
those are my socials, or you can just hit me up and call me. I'll be more than happy to do a free consult because I enjoy talking to people and meeting people, and if we can help
Yeah.
out. A lot of times I'll just talk to somebody and give them a little bit of a roadmap, right?
Mm.
Here's what I would do, because again, if they don't have the money to spend, right? I rather help people out in the beginning, and then maybe someday they can come back and we can help them out further. But that's kind of how you can find me.
Yeah, it's about building that connection and that
Yep.
networking system. Perfect. If today's episode got you thinking about time, automation, and scaling your service-based business with less overwhelm, come find me at scalepartnerai.com. Whether it's plugging in AI tools or we're building a smarter backend, we help small teams do big things. Thanks for pulling up a chair with us on Table for Two. Until next time. Thank you, Tony.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Had a great time.
Thank you.